Football has one habit: it almost never breaks. For something close to 90 minutes, the game simply keeps going. There are no timeouts, no quarters, no scheduled pauses built into the play, only halftime, and then it runs again until the final whistle. That non-stop rhythm is a big part of why so many people fell in love with the sport in the first place. But at this World Cup, every single match is now being halted twice in every half, deliberately, written into the rules. And some of the biggest names in the game are already uneasy about it. The reason for the stoppages almost sounds too small to argue about. They are there so that players can have a drink of water. So here is the question this story comes down to. Why has pausing every game for a hydration break left players, former officials, and supporters so unconvinced? The first thing to be clear about is that the breaks themselves are not new. Football has used them before, at the 2014 World Cup in Brazil, where a punishing afternoon in the heat forced the referee to stop a knockout match so the players could cool down and take on fluids. Back then, though, the pause was a response to the weather. It was called only when conditions were extreme enough to justify it, and for a long time after that, it stayed that way. Used when needed, left out when it wasn't. What has changed for this tournament is that the break is no longer tied to the heat at all. Under the new guidelines, a 3-minute hydration break has become a fixed part of every match. It does not matter whether a stadium is open to the sky or sealed under a closed roof. It does not matter whether the air is baking or whether it is a cool evening kickoff. Twice a game, the same stoppage arrives, like clockwork. Play is paused, the players walk to the technical area, and they take on water while getting a moment with their coaching staff. That last detail matters more than it first appears, because every one of these breaks does two things at once. It hands the players a guaranteed drink, and it hands their coaches a guaranteed chance to pass on instructions. In effect, a short extra team talk, twice in every game. And it opens a gap in the action that, on television, can be filled by a commercial. None of that existed in a normal match before. And it is the second and third parts, not the water, that have started the argument. The first major voice to say so out loud was Virgil van Dijk. The Dutchman had been watching closely. By his own account, he had seen almost every game in the tournament up to that point. And while he made clear he found the whole idea interesting, he also made clear he had reservations. His first concern was about what the breaks do to the broadcast. Every time the action stops, there is an opening for coverage to cut away to adverts, and that is something the defender said he simply does not enjoy as a viewer. A natural pause in the football becomes a commercial slot, and the rhythm of the match gets handed over to the schedule. His bigger point, though, was about judgment. The center back's argument was not that hydration breaks should never happen. It was that they should be decided, case by case. If a game is being played in serious heat, then build the break in and protect the players. His issue was with applying the same rule to every match, whatever the weather. And his suggestion was simple, that each fixture should be looked at on its own merits, rather than treated the same as all the others. It is a measured position, rather than a flat rejection, and that nuance is the whole story. The complaint is not really about hydration, it is about the word every. And it is a view that found support from someone who spent a career managing the flow of a match from the inside. Former referee Dermot Gallagher, speaking on Ref Watch on Sky Sports News, lined up alongside the defender. The ex-official put his finger on exactly the same problem, the one-size-fits-all nature of it. In some stadiums, he pointed out, the conditions are blistering, and there a break for water is exactly what you want. But in others, it simply is not warranted. And yet, the stoppage comes anyway. 3 minutes, he noted, is a long time to take out of a football match. He also described how strange the breaks can feel in practice. Gallagher recalled watching one game where the players came back from their water break, ready to restart straight away. The goalkeeper was set to take the kick. Everyone on the pitch wanted to get on with it. And still, the official had to hold things up because the break had to run its full course. As he put it, everyone was ready, and the players were happy to play, and yet the match could not resume. That moment captures the frustration neatly. A rule meant to help the players ends up getting in the way of the players at the very point they would rather just continue. But the former referee was also honest about the bind that whoever writes these rules finds themselves in. Whatever you decide, he said, somebody will be angry. You are, in his words, damned if you do, and damned if you don't. Then there is the view from the one place that matters most to a sport like this: the people watching it. Former Premier League striker Jay Bothroyd put words to something a lot of supporters have felt while these breaks play out on their screens. His argument went straight to the heart of why football is loved. The reason so many people are drawn to it, the former striker said, is that it is more or less continuous. The game keeps going. It flows. The one real interruption in a normal match is halftime, and that is it. Take that away, chop it into pieces, and you start to lose the thing that made it special. Then he reached for a comparison that lands with anyone who has switched between sports on television. When he watches basketball, the ex-forward said, "It can feel like there are more adverts than there is actual game. The breaks in play become slots for commercials, and the contest gets lost somewhere in between them." That, he argued, is exactly what nobody wants football to become. And that worry stretches well beyond a single pundit. As this tournament has approached, commentators have warned that the stoppages could draw a backlash precisely because commercial breaks in the middle of play are a feature of American sport that global football has always done without. It is a fear about identity as much as advertising. The concern is not that players are drinking water. It is that, every time the game stops on a fixed timer, football edges a little closer to the stop-start, ad-broken format it has spent its whole history avoiding. So if the unease is this widespread, why are the breaks there at all? The case for them is straightforward, and it is built on player welfare. A World Cup is an enormous, sprawling competition played across many venues and a wide range of climates. In real heat, asking footballers to get through a half without a structured chance to take on fluids carries a genuine cost, both to performance and to health. A guaranteed break gives every player a guaranteed moment to rehydrate, and it gives coaching staff a chance to adjust at the point it can matter most. Through that lens, building the pause into the rules is a protective measure, and a defensible one. The case against is not that hydration is unimportant. Nobody in this debate is arguing that players should go thirsty. The objection, as Van Dijk, Gallagher, and Bothroyd all framed it in their different ways, is about how the rule is applied. A measure that makes complete sense in a sun-baked stadium can feel pointless on a mild night. A 3-minute stoppage that protects players in extreme heat can feel like an intrusion when the weather does not call for it. And every one of those pauses, needed or not, opens the door to the commercial breaks that the defender and the former striker both said they could do without. That is the heart of the disagreement. One side sees a safety-first policy that deliberately errs towards protecting players, in any conditions, in every game. The other sees a blunt, blanket instrument applied to matches that do not all need it, at a cost to the flow, and possibly to the very identity that makes football what it is. So, back to the question we started with. Why has this World Cup paused every match for a drink of water? And why are players and pundits not impressed? The breaks exist because the new guidelines have made them automatic. A fixed 3-minute stoppage in each half of every game, designed above all to protect players across a tournament where conditions can swing from comfortable to extreme. The pushback is not really an argument against hydration at all. It is an argument against making the break compulsory everywhere. The breaks worked, the critics would say, when they were a sensible response to genuine heat. The worry now is that, by writing them into every single match regardless of conditions, football has quietly handed itself the one thing it always swore it would never have: a scheduled built-in stoppage, and with it, the advertising that tends to follow. Which leaves the question hanging over the rest of the tournament. Should the breaks stay automatic in every game, or go back to being called only when the heat truly demands it? A current player has had his say, a former referee has had his, and the supporters watching at home have had theirs. For now, the 3-minute pause is part of every match, and the debate over whether it belongs there is likely to carry on long after the water bottles are put away.